Chair.
Yes. Our meeting, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this June 1st regular meeting of the Zion City Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Here.
Commissioner McDowell?
Here.
Commissioner Farson?
Here.
Commissioner Holmes?
Here.
Mayor McKinney?
Here. Mr. Bremner, would you do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Brothers to the front, please join me in the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bremner. Pastor Carlson from Grace Missionary Church is going to lead us in prayer this evening.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it. Nice to have us back in person in session. Thank you for the opportunity. Short prayer. God in heaven, I thank you so much for your goodness and your grace. Thank you for Jesus, your Son. I thank you that in the name of Jesus, every knee will bow and every tongue confess that he is Lord. Thank you that we have the privilege of coming to you in this safe place. Thank you, Father God, for our community that we love. Thank you that it's been well run and well led, Father, even through the pandemic. And I thank you that we're an example to the communities around us, Father. Even with the protests and the problems last year, you kept us safe. And I thank you, Father, for the communication between departments, between our citizens that characterizes us. So thank you, Father. Thank you for this place, this city that we love. Thank you, Father, for this corner of the stage. I pray, Father God, that you help us to always remember the blessings you give to us, the blessings of season, what a beautiful time of year it is, the blessings of remembrance for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in all of America's wars, Father God, as we commemorated yesterday and over the weekend. And we thank you for that, Father. Remind us to continue to pray for those that wear the uniform today and for first responders everywhere. Father, you would keep them safe, help them to get home to their families safe. Thank you also for the opportunity to be involved with making a difference in this place that we call home. And I pray your blessing on these men and women who have chosen and willing to take these jobs. Thank you, Father God, for their willingness, for their character and their integrity. I pray, Father God, you keep them safe. Pray, help us, Father God, to work together, not against one another. Help us to continue to be an example to our state and our country. And Father God, help us to have the relationships with one another and with you that would bring peace, prosperity, and pleasure as you want us to have. So I thank you. I ask your blessing on this meeting tonight, that things will be decided, all the repercussions as we would watch this ripple out into our community. Thank you in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Carlson. Item number 4, agenda changes. Do any of our commissioners have any agenda changes? Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Farson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Item number 5 is citizens' comments. We're waiting for someone to sign in before we receive the names on the citizen comments tonight. Thank you, Chief. All right. First up is Raymond Gilmore. You can step to the podium, and as per the rules of City Council, comments are restricted to 3 minutes. And even though you might have comments, we might not respond right away, but if there's something that needs to be addressed, someone from the City Council or one of the departments will respond to it at the appropriate time.
Okay, as you know, I live in Cypress subdivision over there, and apparently you guys have got a lot of calls from there because of speeders, right? So we're trying to get speed bumps and a speed sign put in. So we like a speed sign, 25 miles an hour for entire subdivision. The speed bumps at the corner there by the stop sign. So when people come out, you know, they slow down. They never slow down for that sign. You know, so we need a bump there or a bigger sign, a flashing sign, a sign with a strobe light, you know, that flashes to let you know that units went faster than normal. That's one agenda, one thing here. And the next thing is, I talked to two gentlemen here about on getting a path over to 27th Street from our subdivision, a bike trail where we can walk or ride our bicycles. It's just that wide. And we're looking at the map there, and it seems like the city has jurisdiction over that little strip of land. Goes down through there because you got a fire hydrant and a manhole there, almost to the street there. So you just go over to the street, So like anybody, everybody else here ride a bicycle sometimes. That's one. And the next one is the big one. Why is our sewer system, street drains, did not hook to the city of Zion system? We would like that done, if possible, which we know is possible, because, you can do things. All you need is back over a couple guys. We've been taking care of that drain. The homeowner association been taking care of the drainage system since it's been there, because it's part of the agreement between the City of Zion, the County Water Commission, as I've been told, and the city homeowners association. So that was a long time ago, back in '06. So I'm figuring things have changed, times have changed, the water level has changed, and the subdivision has been taking care of that drain pretty good. You got to go lift it out, get down there, clean it out, and start to keep the water flowing out to the field, and before it won't back up, and people buy a bunch of sub pumps, and we also do the line maintenance. We do the line maintenance around the entrance there, along the edge of the front side of it. And we got 5 other locations we have to do the contractor line maintenance for in that area. So we're trying to figure out why the cities are not taking care of that street drain problem. Because our street drain goes right to those retention ponds, and we've got something done.
Okay, thank you. Someone will respond that probably in departmental commentary.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Oh, one more thing. I talked to your two guys about it. Talked to your gentleman about that also, too, Because, I used to work at maintenance for about 30 years, getting stuff done. And I always told the engineers, there's 2 things that happens. You don't know how, or you don't want to. Okay?
All right, thank you. Crystal Encarnacion. Did I pronounce that properly?
You did.
All right.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm an Emerald Bunch of Townhomes in Zion on Anderson Trail. And I'm here today kind of advocating for funding to fix the street. And right now, our street has been patched, and we've done that over and over again. Patched holes in the street, and the association, because I'm president of that association, we've been doing that over the years. And now the street kind of needs to be redone. We got an estimate from total payment of $41,000 to do the street, and of course, that's a big budget for us. So we're just asking for some help, some funding. we've been taking care of not just that street, but also the, on Lorelei, that little pathway that the city's supposed to take care of. You came and took some trees down, that was yours, but we've been actually mowing that lawn for the past 17 years. So we're just asking if there's any funding that we can get to help out with the street to get it repaired, to get it redone.
Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll do some research in it, and someone will be able to get back to you about it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Crystal. Item number 6, consent agenda.
Approval of minutes of a regular meeting held on May 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. And approval but not release of closed session minutes of a meeting held May 4th, 2021 at 7:55 p.m.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by McDowell, second by Holmes. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Carson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Motion passes.
Bills, vouchers 137557 through 137633, drawn on Huntington National Bank, total $462,474.65.
Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make the motion to approve the bills.
Second. Motion by Fisher, second by McDowell. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Carson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 7, consider passing ordinances as follows. 7A, approving and authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Office of the Comptroller regarding access to the Comptroller's local debt recovery program per Chief Barton.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. In February of 2016, the City Council approved an agreement between the Illinois Office of the Comptroller and the City of Zion regarding access to the Comptroller's local debt recovery program. The attached intergovernmental agreement will provide the City of Zion access to the local debt recovery program for purposes of collection on both tax and non-tax debts owed to the City of Zion. This is afforded by statute. The City of Zion currently has in excess of $3.1 million in uncollected debts. Adoption of this IGA or intergovernmental agreement would allow the partnership with the Illinois Office of Comptroller to help reclaim a portion of those debts. I respectfully request at this point the approval of this intergovernmental agreement between the City of Zion and the Illinois Office of Comptroller.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Fisher, second by Frierson. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Carson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Motion passes. Were there any questions from our commissioners about this particular IGA or any comments? All
No,
right.
I was familiar with it because it's an extension of the existing agreement.
Okay. All right. Item number 7B, requesting a text amendment to Chapter 30 of the Zion Municipal Code per environment per Chief Barton.
Again, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight I present you for your review a text amendment to Chapter 30 of the Zion Municipal Code governing specifically and defining noise ordinance guidelines. The Police Department responds to and addresses issues of noise complaints, loud parties, music, fireworks, loud and unruly gatherings, and other nuisance-related complaints involving excessive noise. This amendment allows for an enforcement arm for violations and provides an avenue to address persistent problems within our community. Again, I respectfully request your approval of this amendment of Chapter 30 of the Zion Municipal Code.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Frierson?
Frierson. I'll second.
Second by Fisher. Are any questions, comments?
I've got some comments and possible consideration for making a few amendments to it, just for the council to consider. Do we want to continue to provide an exception for Exelon in this, in our current ordinance? So 3060, Section 3060 allows for an exception will pass it on Commonwealth Edison to our nuisance. Do we want to continue to do that or not? That's when they were operating the nuclear power plant, which they no longer operate. So as long as we're making these changes, that would be my suggestion, is that we don't allow that exception anymore.
Because they don't exist?
Yeah.
All right, it seems moot at this point.
I don't have, Mr. Chair, may I address?
Yes, that's why I was looking at you.
A good question by the Commissioner. I don't have an objection on its face, obviously. If it's superfluous or moot, then we should strike it. My only concern is I don't know what prior documents allowed for this that would need to be amended. And if I'm not being clear, I know that there is a settlement agreement between Exelon and the taxing districts. I don't know if this was part of it. That would be my only concern. It's a very good point. It's just I don't have the full universe of information on that to go back and say it would be a good improvement in this.
Right. I mean, it's not a huge issue. It's just if we're making these changes, that was one I would suggest.
Of course, and Commissioner, again, it's a very prudent choice. It's just I don't know the full body of knowledge on that.
I'm really glad we're upgrading our nuisance and noise restrictions. There's just varying boundaries. So there's a 50-foot boundary that noise can't trespass beyond 50 feet. There's a 75-foot boundary, can't trespass beyond 75, and then 100-foot. So I'm just wondering why we have those various distances in which noise cannot trespass beyond. Do we want to just keep them the same, like all of them should be 75 feet beyond the property line, or do we want to keep those varying distances? So that's just a question I have for council.
Can you give an example
Yeah, okay,
of
so,
variations? Because I thought they were all being
63,
restricted.
The second page in point number 4, the noise means sound associated with repairs of vehicles, engine, music, operating mechanical equipment other than vehicles may be heard 75 feet, which may be heard 75 feet beyond the property line of the property from which the sound originates. So we got 75, 75.
Mm-hmm.
You look through the document later on, you've got 100 feet for churches and houses of worship, and you've got 50 feet for businesses. So I'm just wondering why we have the various distances in which sound can trespass.
The consistency of 75 feet is what the IBC code calls for vehicles. So I'd be perfectly okay with that to be across the board at 75 feet would be fair.
So that's just a suggestion. That it should all be the same. And then another thing that I just noticed is that the time in which it should be, that there shouldn't be noise trespass. So in the beginning of the document, we've got not beyond 10 p.m. And within the document where we're suggesting some changes, we've got 12 a.m. My suggestion is we just keep it all the same. So no noise after 10 p.m. and before 7 a.m. So in this document, you've got 12 a.m. or 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. or sometimes you've got 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I wonder if we should just keep it the same, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's my question.
It's a great question, and I think part of our discussion was on weeknights, and this is why we wanted to have this discussion. On weeknights, I think 10 p.m. is a great time.
Yeah.
Because people are working. But I think on weekends, one of the things that we don't want to do is we don't want to, I say, handicap our citizens from feeling like they can have an event. And I think probably on weekends it should probably be extended to 11 p.m. If everyone is fine with that, it's part of discussion. Because things typically, after the week, people really want to, sometimes I think it's great to have these little get-togethers with the family. And I think in this document as well, it talks about the importance of, if you're going to have an event at your home, getting the proper permit, number one.
Sure.
Number two, notifying your neighbors and getting their buy-in so that you're not disrupting their sense of peace. And we've had a lot of that within the last year with COVID. I think a lot of people were frustrated, whatever, but we're trying to take care of these issues so that we don't have a repeat of 2020 and we have respect for our neighbors' well-being. So 11 p.m., further discussion on that on weekends?
This does not prohibit anybody from gathering together and enjoying their company and even playing music. What it does prohibit is music or ruckus that trespasses onto other people's property.
Absolutely.
So the timing of when there can be noise and when there can't is not all that relevant. It's that the noise shouldn't be at a volume that is going to inhibit your neighbor.
Yeah, and I think that's the 75-foot barrier.
Right.
That we've talked about. I think that everyone is fine with. Because if I'm right, Chief, aren't there devices that detect a decibel level of 75 feet, or am I explaining that correctly?
Yes, you're correct.
Could you expound on that a little bit more?
We can acquire some devices that will read or give us a rating that if we hear it beyond a certain level, and that's within the code, then it's considered obnoxious. So what we would do is measure from a certain point at a property line. And again, this is going to be after warnings and communications had with that resident. We're not going to just issue a ticket right off the start. There's going to be plenty of ample warning prior to. But if it persists or continues on other weekends or nights, then this is the method that we would use. In combination with our body cameras, it would be memorialized that way for further dispute.
Does that address any of your concerns, Commissioner?
Yeah, as I read through the document, I just see there's different distances and there's different times. And
Commissioner,
my suggestion was we keep it all the same.
Well,
If I may, we had previously, there are some other things, and we had looked at this document. We said 12 a.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays through Thursdays, and then on Fridays and Saturdays it's 12 midnight, just to allow for a little bit more freedom, to allow for parties, because in a lot of cases, to be honest, 75 feet at midnight is not very far. So it at least allows parties to continue beyond, a normal night where you're going to have to get up in the morning and go to work. That was the only reason for the variance in the time. As far as the other distances, those were really more for like businesses, like having events or something like that, and those were only neighboring residential zones. So it wasn't just any business; it was a business that neighbored a residential location.
yeah, I think it pretty much clearly delineates here under 3063, Part C, in residential districts and all business districts immediately adjacent to residential districts within the city limits, no noise as defined may be emitted from a property between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. during weekdays and 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. during weekends. So it's defined within the document. And I think trying to, as the chief says, trying to shoehorn it into one block of time, that's a bit, it's trying to force everybody to do the same all the time. And there has to be some leniency, I think, in some circumstances.
I guess I suppose that, especially in the past, really no longer the case. People work all the time. So that's one of the reasons why I was suggesting making them the same times, because work schedules are not like they used to be 20 years ago. Sometimes weekends are Monday and Tuesday for someone. Sometimes they're Wednesday and Thursday. So it's just because our work schedules have changed. So it's not a big deal. I'm just pointing that out. I do have another question, if you don't mind. Is under section 3063, section D. So exceptions to these restrictions sections. The provision of this section shall not apply to 1, construction trades as defined herein, emergency-related sounds as defined herein, athletic events, churches, synagogues, mosques, etc., that are with regard to subsection B. I'm just wondering if we want to make an exception for construction noise.
And your reasoning for that?
If construction can go on at all hours, I'm just wondering if that's really what we want. If construction trades are an exception to this policy, do we want to do that?
Well, I believe there is a section, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief.
Commissioner, the document does actually speak to construction, repair, road construction later on in the document. It defines it. It's actually more narrow than the times that are listed in the initial part of this document. There are some other things that when we have major road constructions or things like that we'll be working with IDOT on, they may choose to defer construction time to a lower traffic volume period, and that may be an exception we need to have in there. That's, I think, what the purpose of that is there for construction. But the construction zone, or the construction portion of this document, clearly defines when construction can be had or cannot be had. Now, there are other things that are not considered construction. Landscape construction is considered construction, but landscape maintenance is not. So you can still mow your grass. If you had to get up early, you can still get up and mow your grass without being in violation of this code. It's just more for major repair type stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, if I'm reading the first page of it and I'm a contractor or I'm a homeowner and I want to run my saw, I'm reading this and saying, well, I've got an exemption here. Construction trades are exempt. So I guess I think that needs to be looked at a little bit. If it's exempt, I did read later on in the document about construction. So our public works, the IDOT, the county, they can certainly do repairs at all hours, especially emergency repairs. But I'm just wondering about number one. We want to make an exception to that. And we can come back to it. I'm just, this is the time to make these suggestions, so that's why I'm doing it.
Sure, Chief. Which section for the construction that addresses specifically the construction hours?
It is in
3068.
3068.
Yeah, 3068I.
I'm reading that to be our Public Works Department, our building department can grant exceptions, our Public Works Department can grant exceptions. So this is local, state, and federal governments are exempt from this prohibition. And I'm reading that construction trades, as defined herein, are exempt.
So I guess I'm not reading construction in that initial section like the way you are.
Yeah.
So that saw scenario would fall under the lawnmower, exemption. And then if there's anything larger than that going on within a resident, then at that point, they should have a building permit, which would define their hours of being able to do the work.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And then the larger section that we're looking at is more for like the larger public works, county construction and whatnot.
Right. This is how construction is defined in the document. Construction trade means any type of home repair, including but not limited to construction, repair, and or maintenance of a new or existing structure in its This shall also cover landscaping construction, but not landscaping maintenance. And then point D, exceptions. The provision of this section shall not apply to number 1, construction trades as defined here. So,
We need a better definition of construction trades.
we don't have to take action tonight. I think we should approve this tonight, but
And
if we
then-
want to take another closer look at some of these things, we can come back to it.
If your recommendation for changing it to 75 feet, I'm fine with that. I have no issues there. I think the consistency is great. What was your other request beyond the construction one?
Just the times, because the weekends are not how weekends used to be. Not everybody is off on the weekends, and sometimes those are work days for people, so.
So, I can empathize. I worked midnight shift for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And so I was sleeping during the day, and everybody else was up and around. But prevailing the standard still is that people work Monday through Friday.
Sure.
So I think, of course, there will be exceptions, but I think I don't see any need to change the times from my own perspective. I think it's pretty comprehensively covered. Where is the area where you have a concern about the distance? Well, there was one in particular.
I think there's just a consistency between the 50, 75, and 100. My understanding is we're amending the motion to have everything consistently at 75 feet. Is that?
Yes, that's my recommendation, but I understand that, you're just hearing that, so if we want to approve the document as is, if you want to take more time to consider it, and come back, we can always make changes to these ordinances, so it's.
Well, I think the variation is specific to a particular activity.
So it raises commercial from 50 to 75, and it lowers churches from 100 to 75. Those were the ones that I noticed.
Yeah, right.
I think the latitude was given to houses of worship because you have music and other activities happening usually on a Sunday, which is during the day.
Okay.
So I hate to put a restriction on something in that case. So I don't know if I would be comfortable doing that. I see it in one place in residential areas where it changed it from 100 to 75. And I think that's reasonable because a large portion of the city, you're closer than 100 feet from your neighbors. So within a residential, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Usually with businesses usually are, not that close to residential, but in the cases where they are, then I would be in favor of, being more restrictive if they're producing prohibited noises near a residential area.
Okay.
So I said, the one change I see here, I think that's reasonable, and I'm comfortable with the rest of the document as it is.
Can you specify which change?
The first one, 3062, Part 5. where it changes the residential area from 100 feet to 75 feet.
Okay.
And I believe that that section is primarily for people who are applying for a permit
Permit, yeah.
to be able to have amplified noise or music.
So we're leaving at 75?
Well, that one is changing from 100 to 75.
Right.
So I think that's fine.
And we're keeping that.
I would say keep that.
I'm good with that too.
All right, then,
At that point, we're back to the original motion.
Which
Right.
Is to change it to 75 feet for all,
Consistent.
if I'm following.
No.
The original motion was to leave the document as is.
Okay.
Right.
And we're going to approve it as is. No changes to the times or the
No changes to the
This is
distances.
the time to make these comments, so that's why I'm making it. And,
Right.
It really is the council that's going to decide. I appreciate the input from both of you guys, and
I noticed the issue with the exception for Exelon also. I'd be interested to see what that was about. As far as I'm concerned, it's
because
we can
they have loudspeakers that
right.
the loudspeakers travel farther than our ordinance allows. They also have sirens and
And with the storage pad there, they may still have those
that's an entity
equipment.
run by the federal government, not by Exelon.
No, once the licensee goes back to Exelon, will have control of the storage pad. They'll have responsibility for it, and NRC will do oversight.
All right, so we should check that out.
Okay. So I guess not to belabor the point. So we're back to the original motion, I believe, Clerk.
Right.
It's been motioned and seconded. I guess the other thing is we should also work with the rich discussion here. We should also work to come up with a summary of how this actually impacts residents and pick out some of the important parts of this ordinance.
I was going to suggest
People to
that,
take
that we
note of.
we should post a summary of this on the website and share it on social media.
And through other means that we've talked about, maybe it's for further discussion, maybe even use Blackboard. Because one of the things that as I read through this, the document, is that we're committed to promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the city of Zion. And over the past year, I think one of the things that's happened with calls that I think we've all received has been the noise from the cars that are either in repair at someone's house, the noise from the speakers that you can, when you're sitting in your living room, you can't watch your TV show, and the other disturbances that do affect the health and welfare of our residents. So we're trying to really make it so that people aren't, at the old phrase, as being disruptive of the peace, disrupting the peace, which we had way too much of last year with the fireworks and things of that nature.
This is a really good ordinance, and I do think that we need to let residents know that we're being much more specific in our noise ordinance, to the point of this ordinance speaks to dogs and animals.
Yes.
Noises. It speaks to loud and unruly gatherings. So there's quite a bit of specifics in here that our residents should know about.
Absolutely. And so as Commissioner Frierson mentioned, we have to really do a good job of summarizing this in a small form so that we can get this out to our residents on a consistent basis. Today is June 1st. With summer, you're seeing more people are out right now. And last summer, just talking to the chief this morning about one of the events that they were responding to, an event that the fireworks were so loud that he couldn't even communicate with the staff. And one of the biggest issues with that, in addition to disrupting the peace of your neighbors, whether it's your pets or the veteran with PTSD, is people that want to enjoy their home environment. We want to get back to being able to have that and have respect for our neighbors with all the events that you might have in your particular neighborhood. So,
Okay, that's all my comments.
okay, so we're, just so I'm clear, we've had a first and a second, and we're going to look at doing an amendment of this or not? At a later date, from what I'm understanding, defining construction trades, if that was,
And excellent.
I think
and
that's
excellent. I think our council had.
I will come back at the next meeting. I will do a report at the next meeting and have a finalized answer on our meeting on July the 6th about what findings we've made about the excellent exception. And then if there's any intake from the city council, we could have an amendment for the July 20th meeting. And that'll allow you, ordinances are organic documents. They can change, and that's the beauty of them. And so after 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you find that there's certain changes with regards to distance, time, and or definition of construction trades. Give me the input, and we'll be more than happy to put that into a revised ordinance with regards to this. So the intent is not to create different buffering zones. It's based upon the use. It's the different uses of commercial versus houses of worship versus residential. And the timing is in there is very artfully set. Was because there is a sense of community. Sometimes people do stay a little bit out, a little bit longer during the weekend nights. But yeah, if you don't, if I can get you the feedback by the meeting on the 15th, I will be more than happy to. I would like to say I will have it by July the 6th, simply because there are documents that, quite frankly, due through no fault of my own or the clerk, are just missing from the record, and we have to get them out through the tax line and whatnot. We'll review those, and then we'll come back to you with regards to that. And I would love to hear some input from all of you with regard to how the ordinance is working out. And obviously, it will fall, the July 6th meeting will fall after the 4th of July holiday, which is oftentimes a very noisy time.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye, motion passes. Item number 7C, approving and authorizing a certain memorandum of understanding between the City of Zion and the Zion Professional Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 1999, per Chief Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is related to the next item regarding hiring some contract personnel to supplement our paid on-premise program, which our numbers haven't been exactly what we wanted to be yet for part-time staffing. And so the next item will be discussing that contract, but there's wording in the labor agreement with Local 1999 that makes it necessary to get their agreement and approval on doing such. So this MOU allows that until the end of their current contract, which is April 30th of 2022.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the MOU with Local 1999.
Motion by Fryerson. Is there a second? Second by McDowell. Are there questions, conversation, comments? Not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye, motion passes. Item 7E, approving and authorizing a certain memorandum of understanding between the Zion Fire and Rescue Department and Vista Health System, North Lake County EMS, per Chief Street.
I think
think
we
we
skipped
should-
one.
I think you skipped ahead on item.
Sorry. Item 7D is indulged. Approving and authorizing and approving a certain personnel services agreement between the Metro Paramedics, Inc. and the City of Zion per Chief Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. This is what I referenced before, so I'm requesting and recommending approval of the attached contract for services with Metro Paramedics. This will provide 2 firefighter paramedics on a contractual basis to supplement the paid on-premise program. That's an important part of that, is this is to supplement the paid on-premise program and not our sworn full-time firefighter paramedic staff. It's important to point that out. hoping to contain some overtime costs, because every time we can't fill one of those part-time spots, we do have to fill it with overtime from our sworn staff. So this will hopefully alleviate some of those overtime costs and stabilize our staffing just a little bit.
Is there a motion to approve the personnel services agreement with Metro Paramedics?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Frierson, second by Holmes. Discussion, questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Motion carries. Item 7E, approving and authorizing a certain memorandum of understanding between the Zion Fire and Rescue Department and Vista Health System North Lake County EMS per Chief Street.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a request from our EMS system that oversees our paramedics, operated under Vista Health at Vista Hospital in Waukegan. It's an administrative document that they need essentially as part of their accreditation process. Just enters an official agreement with us to allow us to oversee their paramedic and EMT students with in-field ride time experience. This current MOU addresses the recent changes in administration on both ends, and I recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Motion by Frierson, second by Fisher. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 7F, amending the intergovernmental agreement establishing a solid waste agency of Lake County, Illinois, per Director Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. The SWACO Board is requesting and requiring all members approve the attached amendment to the intergovernmental agreement. This agreement addresses the qualifications necessary to serve as an alternate director on the SWACO Board of Directors, and adds another option for members to consider the immediate past mayors and village or village presidents, with the qualifications for the director remain unchanged. Staff requests and recommends approval of the amendment to the intergovernmental agreement establishing solid waste agency of Lake County, Illinois.
Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Motion by McDowell, second by Fisher. Questions, comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye, motion passes. Item 7G is approving and authorizing a certain equipment use agreement between the City of Zion and William M. McKinney III per Mayor McKinney. Actually, we're working with the city to be able to utilize a riding lawnmower for our summer lawn cutting service. We've had a shortage of not only equipment, but people that are applying for those positions. And in talking with the director and the staff, they could use an additional equipment that I have that I'm willing to loan the city. And the only thing that I'm asking is that they fuel it and take care of it, get it back in working condition based on normal wear and tear. So just trying to help our city look better with adding some equipment that probably right now we couldn't afford if we had to go out and purchase it.
Don't break the mayor's lawnmower.
Now he tells me.
So is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by McDowell, second by Holmes. Comments or discussion other than not breaking the lawnmower?
I think it's very generous.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
I'd even offer to do some work with them, but Rich said there's an age restriction on it, so I can't get on the equipment. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Abstain. Item number 8, discussion, authorization, and approval. 8A, consider the request to release the performance bonds for Shepherd's Point per Director Roberts.
Thank you, sir. Attached is a request from REO Funding Solutions to release 2 performance and maintenance bonds for Shepherd Point subdivision. The bonds were established in 2014 for a combined total of $157,248. REO Funding Solutions sold the development in 2018. Both bonds are non-transferable. The new owner will be required to establish a new LOC prior to the issuance of any construction or occupancy permit. Tough word. Staff requests and recommends the release of performance bonds.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the release of the performance bonds.
Motion by Fisher,
Second.
second by Frierson. Conversation, questions?
So what does LOC mean?
Line of
Letter
credit.
of credit. So that's any public improvement that the city would take over, they would need to issue a bond for 125% of that cost, and then maintain that for 2 years after we accept it.
Okay.
Just no questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye, motion passes. Item 8B, tabulation of bids, 2021 HMA patching program per Director Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Attached are the bid results for the 2021 HMA patching program. Staff request and recommend awarding this project to the lowest responsible bidder, Chicago Wind Paving Contractors, Inc., from Lake Zurich, Illinois, in the amount of $151,700. Funding for this project has been budgeted from the Motor Fuel Tax Fund. Copies of the bid tabulations are on file in the City Clerk and the Public Works Office.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by McDowell, second by Holmes. Comments, questions?
Director Roberts, did we, have we used them before? It rings a bell.
They've won the bid probably the last 3 years.
Right, okay. They've been doing pretty good work.
Yes.
Okay.
And just an idea for our staff and our citizens, how much with this $151,000, how much patching will get done? Approximately.
Originally, we estimated $200,000 from MFP funds, that's what council approved. At that time, we were looking at $24 per square foot, which would have been equaled out around 8,000 square yards of material being able to replace. The winning bid came in at $18.50, so that's going to increase our capability probably another 2,000 yards.
Great. Thank you. Clerk, did I call the roll already?
No.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Item number 9, departmental commentary. Director Ianson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Director Graves might expand on this, but the Detention grass crew, we're still accepting applications for lawn cutters and a supervisor's position. We have very low response up to this point, so anybody interested in a seasonal job over the age 18, please apply.
And that information can be found on our city website.
Yes, on the city website, Facebook, and other media outlets.
Well, it seems like we're, not only the city, the park district, and other businesses in town, because of the pandemic, have been having difficulty getting people to apply for jobs. And some of that has been talked to these different entities, has been a result of the stimulus packages that people are getting. So we're hoping people step forward and help with our different taxing bodies in being able to keep our city looking beautiful as we roll into the summer months. Director Roberts?
Thank you, sir. I think I'll take my time here to address some of the issues that were brought up at citizen comments. The first one being Cypress Park. The first comment was talking about a speed sign. maybe a flashing. We'll take a look at that. That's something we can install in. Speed bumps, we do not allow speed bumps on city municipal streets because what it does is it damages our plows. We barely have enough plows to continue keep doing what we're doing. We have half our fleet is probably 15 to 20 years old. So bouncing up and down on those is not feasible for us at this time. The bike trail, that is within, it does reach over to 27th Street over by us. That is a public utility easement. That's not city property. That's actually part of Cypress Park Phase 2, which went into auction, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. So it has a private owner. We can reach out to that private owner, see if they will allow that. But then again, the construction of that, we would have to take a look at as far as funding. Maybe it's something we can deal with joint with the park district or something.
And we have the contact information for the private owner of that property?
Between the director, Heinsohn, and myself, I think we can find that. Did I cover it? Oh, the detentions. The detentions, you got to remember that these subdivisions would never even been approved without that ownership being taken over by the HOAs. So in order for that subdivision to be approved, the council approved at that time was for the maintenance and the burden of those detentions for that subdivision itself was approved through the PUD process because the city did not want to have to take on the burden of the cost and the maintenance of those detention ponds. Now, the release of those ponds do not go into the city design. They actually go out onto Kenosha Road and into the ditch line out there, and then goes up, and then that goes into the city design's tributary for 27th Street tributary. So cleaning and maintenance of that ditch line is actually counted. They own Kenosha Road. We don't even own that. We only have easement rights within there. The back side of that, there's no storm close over by 27th Street. You're talking a major project that we have to bring any storm from that area over. That was it. Okay, that's all your points. Emerald Point, Anderson Trail, it's the same situation. The development was private road. It would never would have been able to develop or put in for that case also, for the development to take ownership and maintain its own roads there. I know the superintendent of operations, I believe you had talked to him, Vic Ransom. He went out after your conversation, took a look at that road, and he said there wasn't even a pothole in it. Alligating, yes, but as far as funding for our side, I don't even have enough money to fund the roads I need to on our side of the house, let alone private roads. I mean, future-wise, I mean, that's the council, if they wanted to look at support of that. My recommendation at this time would be not to, because we're looking at $10 to $20 million deficit on road construction as it is and maintenance. We're behind. Those roads are completely way worse than that road. So it's just kind of priority-wise.
So we've been patching that road, because if you came out, you can see where we've been patching that road.
Right.
So there are holes there, and those holes get bigger with our snow removal crew.
Right.
So we try to patch that road as much as we can to keep those holes from getting too large, to where, of course, after the winter, it makes a big difference. So that's why, I mean, we're not asking for all of the funding, we're just asking for some funding to help us to be able to redo the road so that we can move forward.
Well, that might be something you can do as a request through to council.
Okay.
You can call myself or Director Heinsohn, and we can walk you through that process. It does cost to bring that issue up in a proposal to council for that.
Maybe we can help you.
You've been listening to me speak on there. I don't have the gift again. I think you want somebody with better words.
Director Roberts, one question about the detention ponds. You said, if I heard you correctly, the county is in charge of the detention ponds?
No, well, the initial approval or disapproval of the drawings
Yes.
goes through Lake County Stormwater Management.
Oh,
We're a
okay.
non-certified community. I am an enforcement officer through them, so they determine if they want us to do reviews. Something that large, they handle that. But as far as the ditch line where they disperse into, that's Lake County DOT right away. So they would be responsible for the maintenance of that ditch line. That goes north to 21st Street. And that's where, at that point, goes into Zion's overland flow and piped areas for our storm, which goes down through, it's called 27th Street Tributary.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Director Roberts. Anything else?
I'm good, sir.
All right. Human Resources Director Karen Graves.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be back among you all. I have several opportunities that are available. Director Isaacson mentioned specifically the summer ones that are available. So we have almost 10 positions that are open now. What we've done this year, which is a little bit different than what we've done in the past, is we've actually posted them through a Facebook boost. And so what we did is we put in different parameters that we're looking for. We've also advertised on Indeed. And so even with that, individuals applying for these positions are very slow. So we are coming to you, the community, and asking you to assist us. I've also reached out to the Zion Ministerial Alliance with, thank you so much, Commissioner McDowell, and also North Shore Ministerial Alliance. We're trying any avenue that we can to get the word out so that we can get some of these positions filled. All the positions are available on our websites, and some of them, they're paying over $25 an hour. Some are full-time positions with all the benefits, the whistles and the bells. So we're asking any support you can give us for this position. We greatly appreciate it. And we're here. We've got the positions. We just need the people, the bodies.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen. Chief Street.
Good evening again. I just have one brief item. It's not the most exciting topic to talk about, but it's worthy to put in the record, for our local businesses. I was doing some research on fire sprinklers for our businesses. It's come up a few times with some occupancy changes and building going around the city. And I didn't realize it. I would hope our businesses do, but part of last year's COVID-19 legislation actually allows for full write-offs of sprinkler system costs, both for new construction and retrofitting, if they have to update some of their systems. So quite often we get complaints that somebody has to put in a sprinkler system about the cost and all that. But there's some help out there, and we'll put some of this on our website in case anybody's interested in following up. They're looking at possibly expanding it into residential as well. It's mainly just commercial right now. But again, not super exciting to talk about, but it is an opportunity for our businesses and new businesses to lower their costs on something that's pretty important. And I'll be happy to share these resources with anybody who wants to contact me.
Chief Street, I'll reach out to you, as will our Economic Development Director, Sonalita Bronson. She does a tremendous job of keeping in touch with our businesses during the pandemic and letting them know what options are available to them for PPE loans and different things. So that will be another initiative that we'll take on to reach out to our businesses. Those are important and very expensive in talking to some of the business owners that are that need that equipment so desperately. Could you, as we get into the warm weather, could you address just momentarily the dangers of fireworks, in addition to them being illegal in Illinois, but when you have untrained operators that are dealing with the fireworks, the hazards it creates for a neighborhood or community?
Yeah, there's multiple factors to consider. You're mainly probably speaking to the fire hazard, that somebody untrained and doesn't know how to control where it potentially is going. Certainly a fire hazard both to homes and vegetation in the area. So that's kind of the number one danger that people need to realize, is sometimes you can't control where those sparks and explosions are going. But equally as important is the health factor of many of these devices that people set off. I've been on numerous over the years where people aren't going to have normal functions of their hands anymore because of one little mistake they made with, a big mistake that they made with fireworks. So the fire hazard aspect and the bodily injury aspect is should be equally considered when somebody's choosing to or to not to set off fireworks. The smoke also is a health hazard. And you mentioned it before, but sometimes the pet aspect gets overlooked too. Animals don't like those things, and just all factors involved are very important to consider when you're thinking about blowing off those fireworks.
Well, you mentioned something I think is crucial too, is the fire hazard. And given that we've had a relatively dry spring here, people need to consider that. I learned that from watching the Weather Channel. That's what older guys do. That's what I heard. They watch the Weather Channel. But it comes up with some interesting facts.
Yeah, you're right. It's not unprecedented to even consider our city's display on July 4th has been in question over the years on dry times, and we've called in extra fire trucks for different areas of the city just because of that worry, and that's where we're at now. It is drought conditions now, so you're 100% right.
Okay, thanks, Chief Street. Chief Barton.
Good evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you. I can speak to a couple things regarding the Cypress Park complaints. We've had those complaints. Another member of your community spoke at a previous council meeting, and we responded with some of that. I have some data. We have about almost 5 hours of directed patrol for your subdivision. During that time, there have been only 2 violations that we've observed. One was a cell phone violation, cell phone in the hand while driving, and the other one was a stop sign violation. We have looked at, Administrator Naval and I have looked at speed bumps, as you recommended, even removable speed bumps. And after consulting with Director Roberts, it's just, it wrecks the roads and causes further damage, and or if they were permanent, it would cause damage to the plows. So that's not a viable option. We've also looked into more tech-related avenues, where our directed patrol has been in a marked car as well as an unmarked car to try to deal with those issues. And obviously, if you got a car with stripes, that a big billboard and lights on the top, people are going to obey the law generally. So we've tried it as unmarked cars, and still during that time, still haven't seen those violations. Now, I understand that you live there and you probably see them frequently. We can't be there at all times of the day. We do have other calls that we have to respond to. So we'll continue those patrols and see if we can combat some of that stuff until we can do something else, maybe more tech savvy with cameras or some other means. Speaking to the ordinance a little bit that this council approved tonight, this will be on our agenda for our staff meeting on Friday. I will instruct the supervisors that every supervisor for at least probably the remainder of this year will be involved in the issuance of these tickets if there are violations noted. This isn't going to be an ordinance that is just issued right off the top. I think I want to make that very clear, that there's going to be ample warning to the community, and there's going to be a verification of that through supervisor presence. Again, also on body cameras. So I appreciate the council. The intent to try to curb some of these issues that we've had. They've been ongoing for some time. Speaking with the mayor this morning, the case that he was referring to was Very frustrating that when we had, there was a very violent act that happened during that time, and I couldn't even talk to the people that I needed to talk to get help, render aid to the person involved. It was very frustrating because it was that loud. So hopefully this is the beginning of that ending, or we can bring peace back to our community and hopefully address these issues. And to be honest with you, the mayor and I had plenty of conversation about this. The ordinance is actually, the intent behind it is to bring our neighborhoods closer, because there's a provision within the ordinance that speaks to if you want a party or have a party or host a party, the goal is to talk to your neighbors and at least let them know and maybe invite them to. So hopefully that's the growth of our community at the beginning of it.
Yes, and we'll, as we've talked about here tonight, we've got to continue to market that and get that message out. One of the things that we've been doing is making contact with different people in the communities when they call us about an issue or email us about a complaint, any of the commissioners, we address it. So we do appreciate you coming to City Council or calling us and talking about the issues that face our city. And because we might not live in your particular area, those issues are equally as important as to what they would be if they happened in our area. Our positions and our jobs here are to protect the health and safety of all of our citizens, not by location because a commissioner lives there or the mayor lives there, but because of our citizens. There are more of you than there are city council members. And we do need your help with resolving these issues. We need your suggestions. We need your input. We need your conversation to be able to call us and say, this is what's happening. Here is where it's happening, and then let us address it. So we've been very focused on trying to, since the new council was formed and I took over as mayor, of it being more communicative with our residents and allowing them the voice to reach out to us and talk to us. No issue is too big or no issue is too small for us to listen to you. So thank you for coming to City Council tonight. Thank you for also the calls that you've made and the emails that we get from residents that are concerned and want to return Zion to this quiet, tranquil place that we can all enjoy, especially during the summer months. Do any of the commissioners have any departmental commentary?
A question. Do we know if there's going to be a 4th of July celebration in Zion?
I will check with Marilyn Krieger of the Park District. The Park District handles that. They were working on trying to get a vendor for the fireworks this year. What they found is that it's been very difficult to find vendors. Some of them have gone out of business. The ones that are in business, the prices have been so exorbitant to get the fireworks in. They have a ceiling for what they will, of course, pay for fireworks. So they are working on it, and we should know something about that pretty quickly. Marilyn Krieger, our executive director of our Park District, has also worked with the Coalition of Healthy Communities, which myself and Commissioner Firestone are very involved with. And these are issues that, in between all the discussions with City Council meetings that we have, the issues that are dealt with and addressed in the council are also dealt with and addressed during the Coalition of Healthy Community meetings, to be able to get resources to our residents to help with our efforts with our township, whether it's providing activities or directing them to activities at our Park District for our kids this summer rollout. So we're doing a really good job. I'm really proud of the community and how Pastor Carlson mentioned this, the communication between the departments, the communication between the taxing bodies in the city. When there's an issue, we all talk about it because it all impacts some of us. But we will have an update for that. I would say Commissioner McDowell, with probably the next City Council meeting and before. I will call Maryland tomorrow and see where they are with it. But we've been working on that probably since, I'd say, March or so, trying to find a vendor for fireworks to celebrate the 4th of July.
Okay, thanks.
I guess the only other thing I'll add is, as the mayor mentioned, about the cooperation with the other taxing bodies. summer is upon us. The library is back open. The Park District is opening with their programs as well. So be on the lookout for that. Plenty of things are, free and open to the community. I know they're having a pop-up from the Coles Children's Museum. So a lot of good things going on. So make sure you put the word out, let people know. Stay safe, and hope everyone enjoys the summer.
I would just like to note that I would like to thank everyone who came out to the Memorial Day ceremony yesterday at Veterans Park. Thank the Zion Benton American Legion Post for holding that event as they do every year. Thank the mayor for reading the proclamation. That was very well done. A lot of people noted that, and they were very appreciative. So it was a good event. A lot of people came out. The good weather helped, and I think because things are starting to open up, people are eager to get out and go to events. So thank you all for coming out.
I just wanted to reiterate what the mayor said in terms of the Park District trying to have fireworks this year. I happened to watch the recent board meeting, and Marilyn Krieger did reiterate that she's glad that some of the vendors are still in business, but yeah, they're still working hard on that. I also wanted to say, in terms of people are chomping at the bit in terms of things are reopening, but we still have to be social distanced, and we're not 100% out of the woods, obviously, but again, be safe.
Absolutely. I guess there was something I was going to say about the fireworks, but because the other commissioner spoke, it flew the coop. It'll come back at another time, and I'll talk about it then. Item number 10, as announcements on June 15th at 6 p.m., there's a Zion Township Board meeting. And at 7 o'clock on June 15th, there is a Zion City Council meeting. And it just came back to me. What I wanted to say is, for all of the citizens that come to our city council meetings, and those who watch, and those who live around our commissions, are our citizens, understand one thing, that when we hear issues that you're concerned about, we are in the business of dealing with those issues, but also connecting you to the proper entity that can deal with those issues at hand. And I'm really proud of that work. So there have been several groups that have talked about on the Facebook pages about wanting events for our kids to participate in. And one of the things that we've done with the Coalition of Healthy Communities, our last meeting, I talked to Marilyn Krieger. I said, would you reach out to these groups and let them know what options are available at the Park District? But not only that, if there are programs that they would like to see implemented at the Park District, then they should sit down and have those conversations with the leaders of the Park District, or just like you're here tonight, or within the community, talking about issues that face the community. We're here to listen. We're here to come up with solutions, and sometimes we can't say that we always have all the answers. Sometimes there's a solution that one of our citizens, or a recommendation that our citizens might make, and it flips a switch for us. So please don't ever be afraid to reach out and chat with us about issues. Getting back to announcements, July 5th, the city offices are closed for the holiday. We want everyone to have a quiet, healthy, and celebratory 4th of July. July 6th, it's hard to think that we're talking about July already, but at 7 p.m. there's a Zion City Council meeting. Item number 11, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Frierson, second by McDowell. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner McDowell? Aye. Commissioner Fryerson?
Aye.
Commissioner Holmes?
Aye.
Mayor McKinney?
Aye. Thank you, and everybody. It's great to see everyone. Drive safely home, and we'll see you next time.
I've got some of your signs.
Oh, very good.
Oh, Commissioner Holmes, yes. You sign this? It's a happy birthday for my young man. Unfortunately,